Well, good evening and welcome to the Lower Makefield Township Ad Hoc Property Committee. My name is Dennis Stedman, Chair of the committee. It's December 8th, and we welcome your interest in and participation in our meeting this evening. We have online 5 of the members, as well as a couple invited stakeholders who I will introduce shortly. And we expect to have additional people join us, but out of respect for everyone's time, we thought we'd get going. We have a busy agenda, and looking forward to getting right to it. If I could, I'm going to share my screen to help lead our discussion. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Great, thank you. So as you know, the assignment of this committee is to develop a long-term Patterson Farm master plan that will guide township decisions on use and investments in both the near and far term. And that's what we've set out to do. We have a number of resources and guests that can help us with this undertaking. Our agenda tonight, the first order of business, I'll turn it over to our secretary, Beth, for the approval of the November 17th minutes. Beth?
Yes, thank you, Dennis. The minutes were distributed by our secretary, Janelle, and Katie, I think, one or the other. Anyway, they've been distributed for your review, and I'd entertain a motion for their approval or corrections if necessary.
Any comments or corrections on the minutes?
Nope.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. Minutes are approved.
Thank you.
Beth. The first item I think we should talk about this evening is public input, and in this process, and we've adopted since the last meeting a kind of a new initiative, something called invited stakeholders, and I'd like to talk to that topic now. As we all know, in this township-owned special property we have, the Patterson Farm is really a wonderful historic and agricultural resource. Any and everyone really can be viewed as a stakeholder, adjacent business, adjacent homeowner, any resident, anyone interested in the property is a stakeholder. And so public input, public participation is not only needed, it's fundamental to the success of the project. Any kind of public undertaking like this needs to reflect the community, and we need to hear from the community. That's why we hold our meetings in public. And I think with the Zoom mechanism, it's even more convenient for the public to participate instead of going down to the township building and sitting in a folding chair for a couple hours. So hopefully we'll have and get active public input. And we also, the committee was appointed by the Board of Supervisors to represent that public voice. The supervisors are not developing this plan or these recommendations. They've asked this group of 7 volunteer residents to do just that. So the public input is important. And we've identified what we think are kind of a new category that we're calling invited stakeholders. All stakeholders are expected to be heard from. All stakeholders should be dialing into the meetings and offering their comments. This subgroup of stakeholders will have the will allow them to participate more directly in our meetings. They're part of our Zoom meetings. They're part of our dialogue. They can questions and answers, and the committee can ask them questions about their area of concern directly, as opposed to they're coming in via simply a public comment period, which comes towards the end of every meeting. So there, an invited stakeholder is invited to all of our meetings directly. And to be clear, they're not members of the ad hoc property committee. That was created by a township resolution in 2021, and that membership is appointed by the Board of Supervisors. They control that. A participation of an invited stakeholder in a meeting, it doesn't affect whether we have a meeting quorum to take a vote on a matter or to make motions or vote on resolutions. But they're an active participant in the meeting. We always want to hear from the stakeholders and from all stakeholders, whether they're in the public, dialing in during the public comment period, or whether they're part of the Zoom meeting itself. We're doing this, we're trying to strike a balance here, of course. We want public input, we want stakeholder involvement. We need to balance committee responsibilities, township decision-making, all of those things together with what is a practical, manageable meeting size. We can't have a meeting of 80 people or 30 people. So by selecting this subgroup of stakeholders, we're trying to enrich that input. But by choosing them, we're not trying to exclude any other stakeholders. All stakeholders are expected to listen, participate, make comments as they can. So I want to make that clear. We're not saying if you're not part of this Zoom meeting directly, you're not a stakeholder. That's not the case. Everyone in the community is just that. The invited stakeholders that we've identified, first of all, pretty clearly the property owner, Lower Makefield Township, Jim Majewski is participating in our meetings as that stakeholder. If you want to wave Jim, Jim is responsible for planning and zoning at the township. He has a wealth of experience and knowledge with this property and with a variety of township issues that will ultimately influence this plan. So we welcome Jim. We've also invited Steve Hines,
Thank you.
the chair of the Lower Makefield Historical Architectural Review Board. Steve is very active in the community and serving the community a lot in that capacity and others. So we appreciate Steve's participation. We've also invited from the Lower Makefield Environmental Advisory Board, Kevin Gallen. I'm not sure if Kevin is on. I didn't see him yet, but I can't see everyone. Oh, good. Hi, Kevin. And obviously this is an important environmental resource for the community. This 220 some odd acres. We want to be with wetlands, streams, springs, ponds. We want to be sure that voice is heard. Representing the Patterson Farm Preservation, Jeff Herco, their president. Jeff has been active in that for a long time, and he's actually done carpentry work and restoration at the Patterson Farm. So Jeff, we welcome your input and voice in these matters. Our farming tenant, which is Charland Farms, Sam and Tim Stewart, farm the land. They are the tenant. I just before the meeting started, I got a text from Tim that he had an urgency arise and he will not be joining us tonight, or didn't think he could. But we would welcome, we welcome their input any and all the time, of course. They are the stewards, not to use a pun, but the stewards are stewards of this farm. I mean, their agricultural decisions, production decisions, terracing the field or adding new drainage or what they plant and how they manage it is clearly an important input. In addition, we do have two other stakeholders that are represented by members of the committee, representing art community tenant, Beth Savini. She's the AOI coordinator and been a tenant of the Patterson Farm property for a long time. So Beth, we know we have your voice. I want to point that out. And also Joe Camarada, a recent newest member of the committee, is the chair of the Historical Commission for Lower Makefield, and Joe has a wealth of experience in historical preservation and restoration. Joe, we welcome your voice. So I wanted to kind of kick off the session explaining the invited stakeholders, trying to get more input from them, and hopefully it's clear that we're not excluding any stakeholders just because you're not invited into the Zoom. We want to hear from you during the public comment period, and of course there's always phones and emails and everything else outside of the meeting. Any questions or discussion from anybody on stakeholders or committee members on this kind of new category or process? No? Okay. Well, that's great. We welcome all the stakeholders. At this juncture, I'd also like to introduce Jennifer Stark and Candace Lee from a Vision Young. We've hired their architectural property management firm to help us in the development of this master plan. They are supporting it as a project manager, providing project management services to this, so to help us coordinate our scheduling, communications, dialogue, and analysis of with contractors and bidding and all the rest. So they've been a great support since just in the last, I guess, 6 weeks or so since the relationship started. I really value it. I'll turn this part of the meeting over to Jennifer.
Thank you, Dennis. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to give you an update on what we've been doing since November 1. Our last meeting was actually the 18th, was our site visit, sorry. Our last meeting, we talked about mobilization, and we've done just that. We wrote the request for proposal. We put it out to our qualified shortlist of professionals. We conducted a site visit with those that could attend, and they were able to walk through all of the buildings and really see the property firsthand. I think we picked one of the coldest days in November to do this site walk, but it was quite successful, and I think that everybody got some information from it. The bids were due on December 7th, which was yesterday. We did have one request for an extension, and we decided to grant that. So all of the bids have been pushed to next Wednesday, the 14th. We expect to receive those bids, and Candace and I will level them, meaning we will create a spreadsheet and put down the comparables so that it's easy to compare proposal to proposal. And then we'll convene with the committee to review those proposals. Our overall time schedule is still intact. You're looking at it right here. We've got the first 3 months of our efforts are to onboard the professional team. And so we're right on track with month 1 under our belt. The next period of time will be the development of the master plan itself, and that's where we will be having our input from the committee and invited stakeholders and stakeholders at large. And then the last month is to wrap up the plan and have it accepted by the township. So this is what we're looking at. We may be able to have some efficiencies built in here. Once our professional team is selected, we'll offer them this schedule and we'll ask them to put their own take on it, because we will be turning the process over to them. Does anybody have any questions? I see.
I was going to ask, from my understanding, there was supposed to be a presentation by each of the bidders. Is that going to be another one of these meetings as well, or is there some other opportunity scheduled for that?
Dennis, I'll turn that over to you. We haven't talked about how you wanted to proceed with that.
No, we have not. And it's a good question, Steve. And a related question, Jennifer, and I apologize. I'll get to your question. I don't want to answer a question with a question, but when the bids are all received on the 14th, Jennifer, what's the approximate timing we should expect to get those bids from you and your team on a leveled basis? How much time do you need for that effort?
We would like to give you the data the following day, 24 hours.
Okay.
We've always approached this pretty aggressively.
Okay, so that is the 12/15 still?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, we should talk about that. And if we want to have each bidder make a presentation, or if there is some course screening to be done initially, and maybe there's one that pretty obviously falls out and not necessary for that. I'm open to your guidance on that, and the guidance of for other experiences on the call. Steve has experienced John in the benefit of that kind of presentation.
Well, the first question is would we want to reduce it from the five presentations is a lot of time.
Yeah.
Even if you only give them, 10, 15 minutes, you're at an hour minimum. So would we want to reduce the 5 down to a 3 or a 2 finalists to make the presentations? And if so, we should do that early January to get that into our schedule to keep the ball rolling. We don't want to slow down. We do lose a couple of weeks with the holidays. So if we do want presentations, then I would reduce it to a finalist package of 2 or 3 vendors and then go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what do you think of having presentations from the 2 or 3 finalists? Jennifer, Steve, reactions to that? That's a thumbs up.
That's very common.
Okay.
When you receive bids, you can right away see who's a serious contender and who needs to be, vetted more deeply. Yeah.
Okay.
How will that decision be made? How will the winnowing decision, and who will make that?
I view that as a committee decision. Avis and Young could provide a recommendation, but I would leave it in the committee's purview.
So then the process would be, after you level the bids, that we would review the information, try to narrow it down to 2 at most 3, and then request presentations from those finalists.
Correct.
And the benefit of the presentation would be not only to perhaps clarify their proposal and help the committee internalize their proposal, but give the committee opportunity to ask detailed questions and make queries, which I think would be valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Do you expect all 5, or how many do you expect to actually submit?
At this point, I know we have 4 serious, 1 dropped out.
Okay. Okay. And do you feel like we could, I know you're going to get us a spreadsheet, you said, in a day, but then there's a fair amount to work through, try to understand. I'm presuming we can get that down to some finalists for presentations in early mid-January at our next meeting. We don't have a January meeting schedule yet out of the township, but we're targeting either the 2nd Thursday or 3rd Thursday of each month. We're going to try to get a consistency, but there's a lot of schedule juggling that has to happen.
Yep.
And that's not quite settled, but
Dennis, after the committee chooses a bid to accept, does the township then need to, the Board of Supervisors, somebody need to approve that? So we'd have to get on their schedule as well. So,
well, I believe, and Jim Majewski, you can jump in here, but the township has earmarked funds for this committee to develop a master plan. So I think if obviously we can't sign a contract or commit funds, we recommend funds. So I think if we can make a recommendation of a selected final bidder and a contractor, and then we would take that to the township, and for that contractor then to be finalized and confirmed, committed, we would need the Board of Supervisors sign off on that. So I think that's where they would come in, not in approving our recommendation, but when we give them a recommendation, approving it for contract, or they may say go back and refine it, this way or that.
You're correct, Dennis.
Okay.
I'm assuming that if there's some preliminary work that's going to winnow out all but 2, let's say, or 3, we can further make it smaller if there is more than 2, and ask that the supervisors be presented with the same kind of presentation that they make before this committee, or a combined situation. That would be my thinking, that might kind of bring it all together a little closer, and then we can all be part of the same questioning and the same responses, supervisors and committee.
Potentially, I think we'll kind of recognize that when we see it. If there's some, clear superior bids for a variety of reasons, it may be simpler, or it may come up to a complete jump ball and it's hard to get a consensus. So I think we'll have to make some of those judgment calls based on the facts that we have in front of us.
I mean, we have 2 supervisors that are responsible for the committee and invited to these meetings. I think we would just strongly encourage them to be at the meeting where the presentations are made, and they can represent the board in that way.
Yep, it's a good point. It's a good point. Okay.
But I'm wondering, Dennis, because we've talked about this before, but this monthly rhythm is somehow going to slow the process down, right? I mean, especially if I'm looking at, Jennifer has a start date and master plan development of, the middle of February. If this process that we discussed, where we have to review them, have our own meeting, winnow it down, schedule the presentations, have that done, make a final recommendation, get it before the board. I'm wondering if we shouldn't be thinking about some other type of more kind of ad hoc scheduled meetings, where we need them.
Yeah. No, I think we will at this stage. I think we'll need, an ad hoc, as you say, meeting, inserted work, real working sessions, and not strictly limited to to the monthly rhythm. We'll have to just work through calendars and try to get, the best majority we can on any given afternoon or evening. We'd have a working session. As long as we have a quorum of the committee, then our meetings need to be public meetings. And if they're to be public meetings, there's a minimum public notice period that's required. It's a day or two. So we can certainly have interim ad hoc meetings if we can work out. It's just a question of working out schedules.
Okay.
How long does it take to get on the Board of Supervisors agenda?
They meet twice a month. In my experience, usually if you bring something, it'll be on not the immediate meeting, but the second meeting after. So it could be 3 weeks. It could be, depending on the timing, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Now we can put something on their agenda as a projection, as an estimate, when we need to. If we believe we'll have a recommendation by a certain date, then we can proactively put it on the agenda and work towards that.
Good idea.
Yeah.
And Dennis, the board typically wants the agenda items the Wednesday before the meeting, so that Thursday they could finalize the agenda to get out to the board on Friday. So it's typically 1 week before the board meeting is typically when you have to have, maybe not your decision, but you have to have it on the agenda. And if you had a Thursday night meeting, you could make it to the next meeting theoretically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I think then it looks like they meet the first and third week of the month. So if, again, working backwards from Jennifer's start date here, that would say that we would want to be on the that first week in February agenda for them.
Mhm.
And that, based on what Jim said, that we have to have the materials to them by the last week in January. Correct, Jim?
Correct.
So there's a supervisor meeting on Wednesday, February 1st. Is that what you're saying, Joe?
I'm looking at, I'm only looking at the 20, they don't have the 2023 schedule up, but yeah, they meet the
okay.
first week of the month. So I'm assuming it's
Right.
first.
February 1st.
February 1st. So on January 25th, I think we can ask to be on that agenda now. With our recommended contractor. Let's ask to be on the February 1st agenda, and then we'll work what we have to do backwards for the rest of December, holidays included, and January, to get ourselves in the position to make that recommendation. And Jennifer, does that fit your current timeline?
It does, and we may need to stretch this out a little bit, because we've really got the hardship of the Christmas and New Year breaks. I'm all for, let's try it, and if we have to push it out a little bit, we will.
Yeah.
But might as well try.
Yeah, I'd rather be ambitious and then have to push it back a little bit than to it kind of self-impose any kind of delays. Okay, so if we can get these bids to the committee by the 15th, I think realistically the only opportunity the committee realistically would have to meet on have an initial meeting on the leveled bids would be that next week, 19, 20, 21, because you start getting into 22nd, 23rd, where, you know, that's holiday swing, full swing. So, and I don't know the availability of Zoom calendars and all that from the township, but maybe just a query of the members and stakeholders that are on, if 19, 20, or 21 are, you know, are doable. Not a commitment, but just look doable.
Dennis, Jim here. If I may add, there was a zoning hearing board meeting scheduled for Tuesday, the 20th at 7:30. That has been canceled. So that day is definitely open for a Zoom meeting.
Yeah. let's do it.
Yeah, actually the 20th is really hard for me. I spoke too soon. 19 or 21, speaking for myself. But what are the other reactions? Bet, John, Joe?
I can do the 19th or 21st.
19 or 21st is fine with me.
The 21st is the board meeting, so you can't have that.
Okay.
Okay,
Looks like the 19th.
okay.
And I'm
Yeah.
checking the availability of that right now.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
I mean, I would just say, Dennis, based on what we discussed, if we met the first week in January, the week of January 2nd, that would still give us 2 weeks to schedule the presentations the week of the 16th. And then after the presentations, we'd have time to get, you know, we have until the end of the following week to get the information. So I think we could do it the first week in January and still make the timeline if we wanted to.
I would, if possible, like to do it before to give the architects a little bit more time, so they could enjoy their holiday, as well as their regular work. Someone who works with architects, I know they can get piled on pretty quickly, and end of the year, a lot of them go out of town. So if we could do the 19th, I think that'd be best for us. So if we can come up with our whittled down list, to notify them, to give them the extra time to work on their presentation.
Yeah, and to be clear, and I hope you're right, John, to be clear, I see the 19th as a very initial meeting where we you know, after we've all looked at these proposals, leveled proposals, you know, via email for a while. It's a very initial discussion. I mean, maybe we can whittle it down right then and there, but depending on what we're seeing. But I think, you know, that's a working session that's going to need some effort, and we'll take the guidance of Jennifer and the other experienced people. But I'm anxious to have that initial session at least before the holidays, if possible.
Yeah, that also gives us time if we need another working session to schedule it for that first
Right.
week of January.
Yeah. Yeah.
And looking at the schedule, Dennis, it looks like the 19th is available. I will need to confirm that with Katie McVan tomorrow.
Thank you, Jim. If you could you do that, please?
Yes.
And I'm presuming the 7:30 slot, which we've always used, is preferred.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's actually no other meetings scheduled. There were two that were supposed to be in-person meetings, both canceled. So unless that has changed, it should be good.
All right. All right. So let's try to get all hands on deck on the 19th. I think that'll be useful to begin this selection process. And like I say, depending on what we see, it might be pretty straightforward, or it might be very difficult. So I'd rather have time for a couple sessions.
But the idea is to distribute on the 15th, review them, and be ready to
Yes.
discuss them, correct?
Yeah, we'll be able to review it between the 15th and the 19th, and hopefully come on the 19th with some informed questions and opinions, and
Okay, good.
see if there's a consensus. I want the committee to have a consensus, and of course, the invited stakeholders are invited to that session without a doubt. So Steve, Jeff, Kevin, please, try to mark your calendars there. Okay. What else on this timeline and schedule should we be talking about? Hi, Fred.
I don't think there are any other highlights to look at. I'm hoping this can get tweaked by the professionals that join the team, and also how to actually get through the process of selection.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Other questions, discussions on this timeline? No? All right.
We talked about criteria for selection, so I presume that'll be part of what you'll be sending along.
Yes.
At this juncture, in creating this, adding to this process, the invited stakeholders, I had asked each one that if they wanted to raise any kind of issues or to present topics that are critical to them and the group they represent, I think it'd be a good opportunity this evening to air those. So we don't have every one of the invited stakeholders on, but this is the list. So if I could, I'll just start with you, Jim, at the top of the list. Any kind of issues, concerns, topics that you want to kind of highlight to this committee when we talk about the creating a master plan?
No, I think you guys have set out a pretty good framework, and Jennifer and her staff are experienced in this. And I think working with whoever the consultant is that's chosen, I think we'll be right on track. If there's any issues that do come up, though, I'll definitely let everyone know.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah, we know we know you're not a wallflower. You'll let us know, right?
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Steve, coming at it from your perspective, any topics, issues, concerns?
Well, there's two aspects. One, which I already raised, is I think it's fairly important for the professionals that you've contacted and given the opportunity to pull together their presentations, is to make sure that they have a reasonable chance of success in their work. So that's why I raised the issue that it would be nice to schedule enough time that two or maybe even three of these could talk about not only what their goals are and their interpretation of our goals, but also their own forte, whatever that they are bringing to the table and the way that they would approach it. The other aspect would be about a critical appraisal of the historic fabric, that it's understood that we need to make some specific effort, I think, to say these are the important places. We can say some maybe of the newer construction that's there, that it might not be so critical to keep them pristine, but to do what we can to conserve. And that might even mean an understanding of what it takes to stabilize and keep things preserved in situ for future utilization, even if it might not make the most significant increase in the value that we get out of whatever we do on the farm. There's certainly the farm itself has produced a considerable revenue over the period of time that it's been in the hands of the township. And I'm not sure, never seen any documentation of where that revenue went, but it certainly looks as if there hasn't been an awful lot spent on the existing buildings, and a lot of it's gone into general fund as far as I understand. But that's just my understanding, and I'm not up to date on what has happened, but that we look at the history as part of the value.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. It makes perfect sense. I mean, right now the financial value is the lease of 170 some odd acres of the farmland. It's the modest rent that is collected from the two art tenants, and then it's the public works utilization of the mulching area, basically, that gives the township an area to dump their leaves, process their leaves, which has a certain economic value. That it's really limited to those things, and that'll be part of what we're trying to address, is how to help keep it sustainable for the long run, right? Yeah. Okay. Kevin, from the Environmental Advisory Board perspective, any topics or issues you want to bring to the floor?
Yes. I sent a couple things to you just before the meeting. I
haven't seen those, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I sent them kind of late. In general, I mean, we're concerned about pesticides, stormwater management, tree planting, improving the performance of any new or existing buildings, accommodating possible electric vehicle charging and renewables if possible. Things like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, as I know, your group pointed out, the Buck Creek, the Buck Creek starts on Patterson Farm. That's the headwaters. Those two springs between the two farmsteads is the beginning of Buck Creek, and that's ultimately what runs down through the middle of Yardley, past the grist mill and Yardley Inn and out to the river. So we want to be sensitive to all of that. I'm not seeing the full screen, or Sam or Tim on this tonight. I'm presuming not. Okay. Bet or Joe, from your, I know you have a dual role of.
You want to go back to Jeff? You don't want to skip him.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, Jeff. Too many things at once. Jeff from Patterson Farm Preservation.
Well, first I'd like to say I go along with what Jim was saying. I think Jennifer and her team have a very good start in the right direction on where they're going. We as Patterson Farm Preservation started our nonprofit a number of years ago for exactly that, to preserve the agriculture part of the farm and preserve as many of the buildings as we could possibly preserve on there for future use. So we are very interested in both aspects, the agriculture and preserving the buildings.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and Sam and Tim aren't on. Bet, I know you represent the community township interest on the committee, but take that hat off and if you
Okay, wait a
want to
minute.
talk as a tenant, yeah, there you go.
As a tenant, we're interested in continuing to stay and potentially expand our footprint and make use of some of the buildings if possible. It would be a collaboration between us and the township because the buildings right now are not what I call habitable. There's no infrastructure there. There's no sewer, water, or electricity. So any of the newer buildings that might be used for anything, not just art, would all need that level of investment.
Mhm.
And for those of you who don't know, we have a lease through 2026 with a 5-year continuance. So that puts us through to 2031. And we're very happy about that. And we
Okay.
hope to stay.
Gotcha. Joe, from your perspective of the historical commission, I know you're newly chairing that up. What's highest on your list?
I mean, I'm going to echo a lot of the things that both Steve and Jeff have already said. I mean, from the historical commission, we look at the value as being in the farms and the farmsteads. And that means our interests in the buildings go just beyond the houses, but also to some of the auxiliary buildings. And we know that some of them aren't useful for the way that farming is done today and may not have an interest from that perspective, but we believe that they do need to be preserved over time, and that, you know, our goal is to submit both to the National Register of Historic Places as farmsteads. And for that, we require not just the houses, but the other buildings on the property.
And you know, those requirements, it would, you said obviously it's not just the house, but does it have to be a house and a barn? Is that sufficient, or a house, barn, and other outbuildings? Is there such a definition, or is that kind of
It's
in the
not,
eye
it's
of the
not
beholder?
so defined. And Dennis, I think in the report that we did for you, that's actually in your final report, we looked at, I believe there's 12 farmsteads in Bucks County that are in the National Register. And I believe I listed on there which buildings were included in that. And so I know it's not just like it's a house and a barn, or house and a barn.
Yeah.
It's not, it's more variable than that. But I think it's back to what, you know, Steve talked about, like not all of the buildings date back as far as the 18th century, but for those that do, they're important from the historical perspective.
Okay. I hear you. All right. Any other flags, issues, topics that from any of the committee members? I'm kind of calling on these invited stakeholders here, but anything else, Fred or John? That
Not now, but thank you.
Nothing now.
Can I just chime in that I think there's room for all of these uses, and I look forward to seeing that work out in the master plan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's certainly not a 0-1 game here. I mean, I see history and agriculture as highly compatible. I see history, agriculture, and art as highly compatible. You know, they all can complement each other nicely, as well as other potential uses that we, you know, aren't talking about. But because I don't want to narrow ourselves to strictly that, but the agriculture and the historic buildings are, you know, there some measure of preservation of those in my book is a must. And then it's a question of what other things can create community value and benefit that complement and are compatible with that. And that's part of the process, that it's both engineering and creative process. Fred, I see you're on. Any comments from your perspective as a supervisor?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, well, looking through the agenda, Bet has a
I went
hand
back.
raised.
Hi, yes, sorry. I have I guess, point of order. We forgot to adopt the November 7th meeting minutes. The 7th, we met twice in November. We met the 7th and the 17th. So I want to get that on the record so that we're all caught up, or Katie will yell at me.
Okay, thank you. Speaking to the committee members, I know I have. Has everyone looked at the November 7th meeting minutes? Those were circulated as well. Any comments, edits?
No comments.
Could I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
Very good. All in favor to approve the November 7th meetings minutes? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bet. I know we've now forgotten that twice, so that was a good catch. All right, moving on to public comment period. Erica, do you have?
Yes,
Are
we
there
have
comments
Donna
from the
in the
public?
waiting room here. I can move her in right now. Just her. Let me see.
Hi, it's Donna. Can you
Yep.
hear me? Good
Yes.
evening, everyone. It's Donna Joan from Patterson Farm Preservation. Happy to have the opportunity to speak with the committee tonight. Just wanted to let you know that there was a medical issue in the Stewart family, which is why Timmy was not able to attend tonight. So just to let you know that. The next meeting is what date? Was it December 20th?
We're tentatively targeting a 19th, a working session on the 19th of December to be confirmed.
Okay, and would that be with the stakeholders invited, I'm assuming?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Just wanted you to bear in mind that this is the Christmas tree season for Stewart, so it's very, very hectic. So I don't know whether they'll be able to attend it at that time, but January, I guess, is open.
Right.
All
No,
right,
I
just wanted
understand.
to
And
mention.
I've talked to Tim and Sam both a couple times, and I know it's making these meetings are difficult, but we'll keep them in the loop as best we can.
Very good. I appreciate that. Just wanted to reiterate our desire to see the farm stay in agriculture. There's about $500,000 on the table if the committee decides to go with exploring the options to work with Doug Wolfgang at the Farmland Preservation Office in Harrisburg in regard to preserving the remaining 38 acres that are not protected. So that would be income that could potentially restore some of the buildings. And I spoke with Doug Wolfgang a while ago, and he said that the buildings are part of that preservation, which is different than the Bucks County's program, because the state program believes that there is contributory value of those buildings to the purpose of the farm. So that's something to keep in mind.
And Donna,
I just
on
wanted
that,
to
Donna, on that, can you forward that information to the committee? I don't have anything on that. I mean, other than you saying it. If you have a proposal or statements or emails or documents, send them, because that needs to be part of our master planning process.
Absolutely. Also wanted to just say that in addition to planning what the use is for the buildings, we have to plan the management, plan for selection criteria for tenants and so on, have a fair and open process, hopefully working with this historic commission that would determine what are the things that you're looking for in a tenant and how the tenants could help to restore the buildings or contribute to the restoration or have this open. I'm sorry, did someone say something?
I don't think, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, that's what a plan would be, that decide on use and then how, you know, the kind of the criteria associated with that use for management. So that's good.
Right.
Good
And I
point.
just wanted to echo Stephen's comments about the fiscal responsibility because, you know, that's sort of been a gray area in the past that really needs to be addressed. And my final thought is that
We lose
sorry,
you?
I can't hear you, Dennis. Yeah, no, I could see that you're speaking, but I could not hear you. Are you there?
I think the
Hear
floor
me.
is yours, Donna.
Okay, I did, Dennis, I apologize. I did see that you were speaking a minute ago, but I did not hear what you were saying.
Oh.
So I just wanted to also reiterate to the members of the committee who are probably new to Patterson Farm that it is a very huge privilege that we have a farm that's been in agriculture for almost 350 years. So as we approach that anniversary, I would love to see a plan that incorporates that celebration of that milestone coming up and also honors Tom and Alice Patterson for the contribution that they've made to the community. And thank you so much. And that ends my comments for this evening.
What year is the 350th anniversary?
2033. So we're 11 years away. It'll be here before you know it, because as you know, 25 has passed since the township acquired the farm. So something to look forward to.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good night.
I'm on full screen now. I see Colleen is on. Colleen, I presume you want to make a comment?
Yes, hi. I would love to make a comment, Dennis. Thank you for acknowledging me here. I first want to say, I mean, I have been a caretaker, a stakeholder, a heart holder on the farm for, I think it's almost 13 years. In that 13 years, as a small business owner, as an artist, I've spent over $100,000 on the cottage. And part of that is because I keep that oil tank full, including when I'm not really there, which is right now in the winter. I am primarily there in fall and spring. I bring people in from all over the country, as far away from Washington State and even California for just a few days sometimes to stay on the farm. And I'm really incredibly proud of that because I feel as if when people get on the property, they can feel the energy of what's there. I don't feel like I work alone. I feel like the cottage is almost a partner of mine. There's some kind of energy on the farm because of all the history and all the farmers and just, you know, all of the plants and goodness on that farm that transcends into my workshops. So I had just sent Dennis an article and I will also send it to the supervisors. I've gotten a lot of press for the studio. And one is in a magazine right now called In Her Studio, which is sold in Europe, Canada, and across the United States and is in Barnes and Noble. And when I write these articles or when I'm asked about this, I do mention AOI, I do mention Lower Makefield Township. I think we have, like what we have is so incredibly unusual. And for me, you know, it's been really interesting to be there for such a long time. And I do consider myself the caretaker because I see every entrance, anything getting into that house. And I feel like that is why it is in such good shape. But because of the work you're doing, it's made me super, super conscious of being in the studio. Like I feel as if it's more sacred than it's ever been. Some of the work that I'm doing in my art studio is a lot of handwork. It's a lot of stitching. And I think about, and a lot of mending, a lot of repair work, a lot of textile work. I think about the work that must have been going on there for hundreds of years. And I feel like I too, and all of the artists on the farm are able to tell a story. And for me, I would really like it to be a little more collaborative. Like I would welcome, meeting with Donna, meeting with the historic association committees, because I would love to tell more of a story when people travel from across the country to get to this farm. I tell as much of it as I possibly can, but there's just a lot that hasn't been documented. And for that, I'm really grateful for this committee. And I'm just grateful for the attention that this sacred place is getting. So I am not part of the committee because whereas AOI is a nonprofit, I'm a for-profit business. I do an awful lot of community work, but I do feel like I'm definitely a little biased about the studio. But I'm just grateful for you all. And I just want to let you know that as someone who fills that oil tank, I am highly vested. And I hope that whatever happens going forward, that I am part of that. And that I think whatever happens is going to take time. So I am really happy to work with people right now to tell the story of the farm. So thank you.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you for those comments. I've referred to that property as a gem, and you're saying it better than that. And I'd like to think that with proper planning and professional input, we can polish that gem and really make it a special asset for the community and for Lower Makefield Township, beyond the broader community beyond Lower Makefield. So I appreciate that. There's always something fundamental when you get your feet in the dirt. There's something fundamental about a farm.
There is. And when people come, Dennis, they actually take their shoes off. Like they'll sit outside. They feel that dirt. It's totally there. And I totally agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Erica?
Yes, we have Laura on the line. I can bring her in right now. Perfect. Yep. Laura's in the room with us now. And Laura, it's *6 to unmute.
Hello, Laura.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much. Good evening. I just wanted to say it's very exciting to hear the stakeholders participate. And I'm really grateful to also see the Patterson Farm Preservation included. One thing I just wondered, so that the community is more aware of these steps getting ready for this plan, is it possible that the farm can have a sign that says, learn about the master plan and a website connection or something? Because I'm sure there are different ways to inform the community, but with the holidays, with timing, people don't always see things, but everybody goes by the farm. Is that a possibility, or has that ever been done?
I don't know if it's ever been done. I suppose it's possible. What you're really saying is publicize the fact that there's a group working to build a plan for the farm to help create greater interest and input. And
because
as a general comment, I think that's appropriate. I think we should consider what kind of outreach could be done. I mean, whether it's websites or signs or whatever, I'm not going to get into, but yeah.
Right. No, and I realize people can't read a massive amount of information, but some way that could direct, I think that would help also build a base of support, because as I think it's been outlined in the past, you'll be asking for the public's opinion or feedback from them. So this way they would have a little bit of a heads up to be on the lookout. But I think that would be a great community outreach effort. And I thank you for considering that.
And if
That's all I
Laura
have
could
to
just
say.
identify what her last name is.
Yes, Tarantino.
Thank you, Laura.
All righty, thank you.
Erica, other comments?
Yes, we
input?
have, yep, we have Kathleen on the line. I can move her in right now. And Kathleen's in the room with us now.
And Kathleen, I'm sorry I've been lax on this, but for the record, could you state your name and address, please?
Sure. It's Kathleen Herco, 1450 Billington Road.
Okay.
Hi. I just wanted to add, I listened to Colleen speak, and it was very heartwarming to hear that that people come to the farm and put their feet in the dirt and experience the farm. I'd like the committee to realize that the residents of Lower Makefield would also like to have an opportunity to visit the farm and do those kind of things as well. As it is now, the township kind of puts up signs and keeps people out, and it's a beautiful place. People want to go take pictures there. So I just hope that you will keep that in mind moving forward, that the residents of the township who are stakeholders, who own the property pretty much, would like the opportunity to be allowed on the farm, experience the farm, and enjoy all the things that the tenants and people from out of town seem to get the privilege to do. So I just wanted to add that little bit.
Thank you, Kathleen. And as I hope you know, that is a core tenet of why we're doing this, right? The farm isn't
Right.
being used by the community now. It's being farmed.
Right.
It's an active agricultural operation. We can't have people township can't have people just wandering around there. As a
Right.
old farmer, the last thing I wanted is anybody walking in my fields or going anywhere, right? Stay out.
Right.
I'm in charge here. That's a farmer.
Right.
So we have to come up with a plan that is compatible with productive agriculture and community use. That is the entire essence of it, the essence of this. So yeah, that's definitely on the radar. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for letting me speak.
Hey, Dennis, quick question.
Yeah.
Regards to Laura's comment about signage, can we just, and it's tough to read something going down the road, can you just maybe do something short and sweet and it directs people to the township website and the info's on there instead of trying to put it all on the sign?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's I'm sure some version of that is more efficient. We would need to spend some time as a committee figuring out, describing what we're doing. I mean, right now our descriptions are in these Zoom calls and in our meeting minutes, and they're not packaged for any reader to go and say, "Oh, I know, I see what they're doing." But we'll consider that. It'll take some effort.
I'm sorry, Dennis, could I
Erica?
respond to Kathleen? I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought that was a really great point that she made. And when I mention people coming across the country, I mention that because that's money into our restaurants, our Airbnbs. A lot. They love Bucks County, as they should. But the core of people that come to my studio are from this area. And a lot of it is also done free of charge. I do a lot of work with youth, and I do a lot of work with parents who are dealing with children who have substance abuse issues. And I also know, because I'm out I'm there a lot, I can tell you that AOI has just children all over, just it's filled in the summer. So I really do feel like it is truly a community place. And I just wanted to say that because I didn't want to present that it's just people from other parts of the country, but I do feel like that does help the local businesses in a big way here. So I wanted to add that.
Thank you.
And I'm also open to any kind of group as well. I work in schools. I'm always happy to have people in the studio or to create something or to work in community. So thank you.
Good. Erica, other public comments?
There's no more public comment.
Okay. Well, thanks to everyone who took the time to weigh in. The last item, Beth, hopefully you've captured a summary of the action items, so we're all clear.
The action items are around the issuance of the bids, and we hope to have them by the 15th, where Jennifer and Candace will get them out to the committee. And then we'll know shortly from Jim Majewski about whether or not we can meet on the 19th via Zoom to begin the selection process. I believe that's it.
Can I add one additional consideration to follow up on what Laura said, to actively consider some way to at least publicize the time frame that has been proposed for this, and to make people aware that these will be under discussion, not only in our public meetings, if I'm allowed to include myself in the hour, but I think, to have it available as one of the things that people can note, either with, one of those little square, what are they called?
QR codes?
QR codes, yes.
QR code?
That's something, somebody can put their thing out the window and take a picture of that, and then follow up on the information that might be available online as far as scheduling, not only for awarding the bids, but also for the public meetings that are surrounding that.
Dennis, can you unshare your screen, please?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
I want to ask,
My bad.
Jim Majewski, is the only place for a resident to go to find information about what this committee is doing is on the Lower Makefield site. Is that correct?
I believe so. And I think as you go ahead and select a contractor, once that's in place, then we'll have to put something more elaborate on the website about how we're going to engage the public in the process. And I think that's one of the key elements of a proposal, if I'm not mistaken.
But Jim, couldn't we use either the newsletter and or the social media sites to give maybe a brief summary of a meeting and just pointing people to that site? I mean, I know there's been a lot of discussion around physically driving past the farm, but a virtual outreach also should be considered.
Oh yeah, I definitely plan to use Facebook, Twitter, and the other social media channels to do that. And the QR code is a really good idea too, because you could just do it with a piece of paper tacked up at the ball fields, different places where people gather. With the QR code, if you have more interest, click on this and it'll take you to the link on the website of where it is. We did just miss the deadline for the newsletter, so we possibly could have had that out earlier, but the newsletter deadline's passed for February. The next newsletter comes out in May.
Hopefully by May we'll have a lot to say.
Okay. All right. So a consistent theme that we're hearing tonight is greater outreach, publicity of the committee's work, the creation of a plan. Obviously, there'll be debates amongst the supervisor board meetings as things get approved and things, but that greater outreach has been pretty consistent. So that's got to get onto our to-do list. All right. Any other business? If not, I sincerely appreciate everybody's time, interest, expertise, passion, thoughts, ideas, comments. That's all important. And if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Second.
I think we're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.